Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I'm going to call the Village of New Glarus Board meeting to order. I look for an approval of the agenda.
I move that we move the public hearing on the budget down to between after the library project, but before those economic development things. Good. Public hearing.
To which letter did you want it down to?
Just move the budget down so that our folks here don't have to listen to us meander through a million.
So where is everything going?
Hey, put it ahead of F.
A is going down to E.
You made that motion, Golf?
Yeah, I did.
And Larry seconded?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public appearances and citizens' comments on items not listed on this agenda. Items will not be debated or acted upon at this meeting, but will be referred to the proper staff or committee if action is required. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. See anybody signed up to talk. Anybody else want to have anything to say? Okay. Item 4, approval of the consent agenda.
Move to approve that.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Item 5, new business. Item B, public hearing and consideration discussion ordinance 2414 rezoning New Glarus Brewing annexation. This page 144 in your packet. Yeah, we need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second. Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, the public hearing is now open. So,
Got to speak that.
please.
Okay. So this is a rezoning for the recently annexed property. It's part of the brewery project, but it's only the section where the driveway is kind of going through, and then they also will have some overflow parking in the grass area there. The village recommended getting this annexed in case there is a police incident and our PD can respond to it. It's not in the town. That's going to cause confusion for PD. So we recommended getting it all annexed into the village. This rezoning is basically rezoning it back to what it was before it was annexed. Our code basically automatically rezones properties when it gets annexed to agriculture, which is kind of odd, and our down the agenda will be changing that. But this action is basically rezoning it back to AT, which is an extraterritorial zoning designation. So there's really no change to what is allowed on this property that it was before.
I move to approve ordinance 20.
We're still in the public hearing.
Oh,
So is there anybody that would like to talk during the public hearing? So I guess we can motion to close the public hearing.
move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Okay, Larry.
I move to approve ordinance 2414. Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay. Oh, my, item C, public hearing and consideration discussion ordinance 2450 to amend chapter 305 in the municipal code of the village of New Glarus to revise process for zoning annexed land. We need a motion to open the public hearing.
A motion to open the public hearing for 2415.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the public hearing is open. Lauren, do you want to speak on this, please?
Yes. So this is gonna fix the issue, which is great. Our planner recommended this language. So instead of having to go through a full rezoning process, when land is annexed into the village, it will just go straight to plan commission for a recommendation on zoning and then to village board. So it's a little bit more simplified. This is what other communities do. So we're just kind of getting our code up to date with common practice.
Okay.
Okay, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on that? Okay, we need a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Now we'll need a motion to,
Motion to approve ordinance 2415.
okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Okay, item D, consideration discussion application for land division by certified survey map at 57 Second Street, page 149 of your pack. Is everybody familiar where this is? Bob, did you?
Yeah, it's just on the town, Michael Road, and, it's kind of northwest of Flannery. And, after, George died, the brothers want to split the two residences that are on the property and on each individual lot.
Our engineer reviewed this and said it was technically correct. This has gone to plan commission and it was recommended for approval by them.
Okay. Any reason why we shouldn't do that?
Do what?
What you're asking? Split two pieces of property?
So,
Okay. So,
So then each individual piece will be owned by a different entity, right?
eventually, I mean, someday, I mean,
Oh, so-
the brothers own it both right now.
So they're still going to own both of it. It's just gonna be split.
Right, I think the intention, from what I remember Jeff telling me, is that they're gonna sell the house on the northwestern side
Okay.
for now. I don't know what they're gonna do with the other one. Long term.
okay.
Make a motion, Jesse.
Motion to approve. Land acquisition division. Is that good enough? Okay.
Yep.
Say the address quick, Jesse.
W 6747 Legler Valley Road.
No, 57 Second Street.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
57 Second Street.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thanks, Bob.
You wanna sign this tonight, or should I just stop by the village?
I can sign it right now.
Sorry, page there.
They were in rezone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rezoning.
Yes.
Okay, item E, consideration discussion new library project and operational budget on 155 of your packet.
Let Amy present this one.
Okay. Okay, so, the library board is looking at a multi-faceted approach to approaching the operational costs situation. Back in July, I presented on what I found for estimates for building 1,000 square feet for operational costs. They do not guarantee that that's what it would be in 2 years' time. So I did estimate on the high side. It came up to around 43,000, for my estimations. For how far our reserves could take us, I used 45,000, so I even bumped it up a little bit more just to ensure that we have enough reserves to carry us out far enough. So staffing, currently we are staffed at 4.05 FTE. According to DPI, library standards were between good and excellent. There are only 3 categories, and so we're between those top two. So we're very well staffed. And I don't anticipate that we will need to increase our staffing in the new building. In fact, I spoke with Deb Hager today, and she said, you are very well staffed. This is where the building, if cyclings are good, we should have no problems. And we've already stressed that to the architects that we want to have good sightlines so that we can operate with our current staff. We are looking at raising endowment funds. So we have reached out to fundraisers such as Moody Donald Schaefer, and we're getting an understanding of what endowment fundraising looks like. It's a very different animal than capital fundraising. So we're kind of setting up a timeline and looking at where we're going with that. We are taking advantage of matching opportunities as we go along the way. Last month, the Principal Library donated $3,750, which will turn into an increase of $11,250. So in July, we were at $32,000 in the endowment. Later this month, we will be up over $48,000 in the endowment. So we're working on growing that now. We're not waiting until 2032 when we run out of reserve funds. Greene County funds, I had estimated that in July to increase about 10,000 from what we would be next year, because this year is a low year. However, taking into consideration the 2025 budget, I recalculated the numbers this month, and that number is looking like it's going to be at least $12,000. And that $12,000 will increase each year as if our spending goes up any, we're going to see that number increase. In my spreadsheet, I kept it at 12,000. Again, just to estimate, to give us wiggle room in our estimation. Let's see, cost saving measures. With our budget, I'm not going to be able to pursue green certification. However, we're going to use best practices where possible to do that. We'll work with OPM and one of our building committee members who is LEED Green certified. And today I just filled out the paperwork for WPPI's new construction program so that they can work with us during the design phase to make sure that we are as energy efficient as possible and that we can get some of these rebates on the early end. There are certain things that we're not going to be able to get on the early end, such as solar panels. We don't have time to apply for grants and to get that done at initial construction. But what we can do is work with OPM and WPTI and the people at SCLS to make sure that the building is ready for solar panels after we open. We can pursue grants and get those put on later, and it'll be more cost effective if we're making sure that the pitch of the roof is right and the wiring is correct and that the roof is angled the right way to capture some of that energy and regain some of those costs in our operations. We will also seek to speak to the towns, the surrounding towns. We have statistics each year. The town of New Glarus, last year, 23% of our circulation came from the town of New Glarus. The year before that, it was 26%. It averages around 23%. Town of York is around 9 to 10% each year. Exeter is somewhat less. But these townships have been willing to contribute either monetarily or through purchasing things for the library in the past. Town of Exeter just got over a 4-year period where every January they were giving us $1,000 towards the capital campaign. So they're not opposed to supporting the library. So we'll pursue those things as well. Finally, I did present the spreadsheet for potential use of our reserves. We do currently have $183,000 in reserves. So that's the high end for increased operational costs in the building of $45,000. The first year of full year of operations in 2027, the town will contribute $20,000. Which would mean that we'd be using $25,000 in that reserve in those reserve funds. The following year, we also again have, $20,000 from the town. And then in 2028 is when we start to see the Green County increase by that 12,000. And like I said, that will increase beyond that 12,000 as our operating costs increase, whether it's for wages or whatever that might be. So that will carry us out until 2032, at which point we'll still have a little bit of surplus left, but hopefully we will have raised some endowment funding by that time. Also, during the building project, we have built in a buffer of around $250,000. We are going to be pursuing the Schleck Foundation grant and the hometowns, I forget hometowns.
Those are for furnishing, right?
Hometown USA, pardon?
Furnishings?
Furnishings, we can use that for artwork or exterior benches or landscaping or things like that. Anything that's not directly related to construction of the building. That will just help ensure that we have that $250,000 left to reinvest into the endowment. And I did reach out to Linda Gephardt and Wyatt about transferring that money from capital to endowment, and they said that's absolutely okay. So,
Can I ask a question?
yes,
Is the endowment that you established, is that going to be a restricted endowment? Or, I mean, how can you spend that endowment if you need it for something?
we can't spend the principal. So every year we will earn money that we can, spend, and we'll allocate that for
Yes.
operational
The
costs.
distribution rate is 4%.
Okay, so what my question is because the endowment is restricted or not liquid in a sense, what, let's say in a emergency situation, what can happen so that endowment does become liquid?
I don't think it can.
Okay, never?
No, well, that's the point. That's one of my great concerns about that. First of all, I would be commended for writing all this stuff down. I've been doing this thing for 25 years, and this is the only second time I've seen you guys make commitments about what's going on. And the first time was you also.
No.
So you get credit for doing it twice. So that allows us to have intersections and discuss it. So one of my great concerns is you're spending the reserves for operating stuff. That's, if there's a no-no in the financial business, it's don't spend your reserves on operating.
So,
And then I think that what that leads up to is your decision. I never realized until 2 days before you're filing the application that we're using the endowment to build building, which was designed to be built so that we could use the so it'd be the proper capacity in 2049 or something like that, 25 years out. That was the architect's recommendation. And that went into your application. The result is that you don't use the endowment for what it should be used for, which is to pay these operating costs, but more importantly, to pay salaries. The current plan that you guys have on the table with the state pretty much guarantees that you're not going to get any raises projected. Other not at all, except for the 1 to 2% that they can do. And boy, do I think that's unfortunate. You work too hard to be treated like that. Now, I misinterpreted your phrase back in here, funds, all FFP and allocated. That was part of your application, right? The worst way, I would go back to them and say, we want to amend our application so we can build smaller and provide funds so we can properly take care of our staff.
So I would say to that, when you say that we're building a library for 25 years out, the 9,000 square foot library, when I spoke to Deb Hayner, she's like, you realize you're not even building your library as big as you're gonna need next year.
Well, but I saw the projections on population. For the last 50 years, we have averaged 17 new people per year in this town.
So we
And
have,
all of a sudden, we're supposed to be going up in the 6,000-7,000 range. This doesn't make any sense.
no, we have an,
We are not building.
we have an extended county population.
I understand.
That's a number now.
I understand.
Yeah.
All I know is that for the last 50 years, it's been nominal. It's been 7.93 people per year.
That's
for
Village of
5
New Glarus.
It's Village of New Glarus, Town of New Glarus, Town of Exeter,
I got all that. And my biggest concern is you have an opportunity to build for the present size and the present needs and to take care of these expenses and to provide salaries. And my priority is you all have got to be taken care of first and the building second. And your priority, and the one that's been going on for 25 years with the library board, is build big and don't worry about the people. It's a truth. It's a truth. I've seen proposal after proposal. I know you deny it because it's stupid when I say it, right? But the reality is, once you take that endowment money away, it'll be awfully tough for you guys to see any kind of increases when our budget is 3% increase per year. That's the statutory limit. 3% times your roughly 200,000 is $6,000. It's a nominal amount for your total thing, and you guys know you're underpaid. She says so. You don't even get, you aren't even up to the low limit in low, medium, and high. And why is that?
So are you
So let
saying,
me do one more thing before, and then I'll hang up here. So you keep saying you can't do solar.
not within the time frame? We are
What do
not
you mean within the time?
within being opened by.
Wait, just a minute. I talked about this with the school district, and they keep giving me the same business out there. Because you're a municipality, you can't use the deductions that are provided. Tax credits, depreciation, all that kind of stuff. So everybody who installs these things has a program. Some of them, they change from one year to the next. The latest one was funded by the school fund, where they were putting US Treasury bonds in something. But essentially what they do is it's a classic. We did the same thing with fire department when we bought all their walkie-talkies. The borrower buys them and leases them to us. And at the end of 5 years, we own the walkie-talkies. So what they're doing is taking the depreciation. So on the solar panel stuff, they take all the energy costs, you keep paying your bills. They get the depreciation, they get the credits, and at the end of 5 years, you own it outright. And they do that because you aren't able to take the tax advantages that Jesse here does when he puts solar panels all over his building, right? So don't say you can't do the solar. Now, let me just tell you, I put solar on my building. When you did your projections on fees, was it just, how did you arrive at those projections? For construction, did you include all the taxes and stuff?
We went through and yes, our number per square footage number included all of that you were talking
Our
about.
taxes,
Uh,
because that's 60% of my utility bill is taxes.
okay.
And so one of my questions was whether that $18,000 figure is the right number or it's really higher than that. Okay, let me just tell you about my solar panels. Because we have this utility in town here, you get advantages that if you live 1 mile south, you can't get these advantages. And the advantage is that I generate power and I pay my utility, my electric bill, but I'm generating way more than I'm using. So I'm paying 10 cents on the dollar. If I get a bill for $160, I pay 16 because my electrical bill rolls over and pays my water bill and everything else. So if you want to cut your costs under control, call it half a dozen or 3 or whatever it is of those people who install solar panels. Their signs are all around town, and ask them what their program is. And they'll tell you they've been doing it in Cambridge. They've been doing it in they'll tell you all the school districts what they're doing. Don't let this opportunity go by.
We do not plan to let it go by. All I'm saying is that for the grant and getting our building done and open by 2026, we are going to get the building ready for solar panels and then.
Amy, that isn't how it works. You put the roof on and you build all of the retention equipment right into it as you're putting on the roof.
Right.
And they do that. The roof guy is there and 5 minutes later, the solar panel guy is there. Don't tell me you don't have time.
Right.
That's not how it works.
So
Okay, I'm done.
when you say you can't do the solar panels, have you talked to a solar panel company that says they can't get in to do it in time? Is that
We spoke to the architects about the solar panels and they said we can outfit the building and get it all wired and ready, but we're not going to have time. And I can check directly with the solar panel people I will call them, start calling them tomorrow and see.
But the infrastructure will be there, so it
The
doesn't really matter, we can
infrastructure
add it at any, we could add it the day after the ribbon cutting, I mean.
Right.
the infrastructure will
Absolutely,
be
and I get that, and I get what Doc is saying is if we're short on cash, that's one way to get us more cash. If we're not spending as much.
But they do all the financing, that's the nice
Yes,
thing
no,
about it.
I'm looking at doing it for my own business right now, but it's a slower process for me. We have to fix our road first. So,
And that'll take some of these operating cost numbers down for sure, but that doesn't change what we're talking about right now with these numbers.
okay,
Are you good? I have a couple
yeah, that's it.
Okay, I think, so my concern is that you have 38,000 in endowment. And that over these years, we don't have factored in increases in, utilities or that in increases into salaries.
Right, I don't have those things included, but neither do I have the increases to the Green County funding that we're gonna be receiving either.
Okay,
So,
that makes sense.
yeah, I don't know for sure what that is gonna be. I could make random guesses, or I could just leave it equal on both
Yeah.
sides. And we figure it out as we go. Things are gonna settle, we're gonna figure out what our operating costs are, where maybe we need to cut. Hopefully we'll get the solar panels on sooner than later, and our utilities costs will go down as well. And then that will stretch our reserve funds down the road. So maybe it'll carry us well beyond 2032. Maybe we're not dipping into all of our reserves. Maybe we'll have some left over.
Two more questions. Do the people that contributed to the library, did they specify whether they wanted an endowment, invested in an endowment, or did they just give it to the library to be used as you wish?
So a lot of people come in and say, use it for whatever you like. Some people put it specifically into the endowment. Usually that is gifted in wills or something like that, or trusts, or that's where most of the endowment money comes from. And so that's something I'm learning about with McDonald Schaefer and just how to approach that.
Do you have to, is it important that you have an endowment established, total endowment established right now? I know in your report you have 38,000 or something. The reason I ask is when we meet again, and your operational, I forgot what you had for numbers here. Is it possible to put down a $500,000 for your endowment and just see how much that generates in terms of
20,000,
20,000? It'll generate 20 grand.
4%.
Oh, that's what you said. It does.
That's-
Okay.
that's kind of-
So we can add that. That would be added to this 45. Correct? If $500,000.
45.
Well, if we had the $250,000 left at the end and we rolled it into the endowment, then we'd have an additional 10,000.
Okay, and then if you had a $500,000, it'd be another additional.
Yeah, another 10,000.
Personally, I almost feel like I would be interested in a little wiggle room there. Like you put in a 250 or 5 or whatever, just to give it some wiggle.
But these are also numbers without adding anything else to that endowment
Still,
until 2032. So this is not taking
Worst
account
case.
any, this is worst case. We don't fundraise
No-
at dollars again.
And that 4% grows every year,
No,
because they make more than 4%. So they're
They
gonna
can
have
only
a
take
bigger
out.
number taking the 4% of each year.
well, my
Yeah.
concern for that is that as we continue to have salaries more competitive, that will eat up,
Well, we
the
don't
4%.
have salaries for the village employees.
No, but if we anticipate that we're gonna add 2, 3, 4% onto their salaries, that definitely needs to be, factored in. And I guess, I don't know, I'm a little scared on the 38,000 for the endowment.
We'll be at 14,000 by the end of this month. I know that it's low. We're working at it now though, and we have until 2032. We don't want to overburden the community with
Right.
all the fundraising that's going on right now. But there are ways to approach it and plan for it and be ready for it by 2022.
How many square foot is the current library?
It is 2,074 if you take into consideration the additional.
Okay, so let's just say it's
3,000 for to say
Up
the
there.
question. So what about the money that the village gives to the library every year? Like that number should increase year over year a little bit. It's pretty flat now when you look at the library budget. That number should increase. And are we saying like, won't we look at that number and say, okay, now we're running a 9,000 square foot library. That number should increase. No, we're going to still give them the same amount of money as if they're running a 2,700 square foot library. That doesn't make any sense.
Well,
So we're asking them to
But-
do more with less. We're not setting them
you
up
got,
for
you just
success.
built a new building, right?
Right.
Right, okay, so we have a 3% limit on how much we can increase taxes in any 1 year. That's statutory.
Sure.
There's all kinds of screaming about it, but that's the number. So that 3% times our budget produces relatively small numbers of dollars. Now, we got some other sources, you know, that are a little more flexible, sales tax and stuff like that. But that 3% is a real kind of a bogey as to how this system goes. So now you talk about adding a building, you're adding $40,000 worth of expenses, and their budget is 200 and something.
311.
Yeah.
Yeah, 200 of ours, yeah.
Some of it comes from the county, but our share of that 238 or something.
It's 211.
That's like 6,000-7,000 as opposed to 45, which is the reason why you find my face getting red every time I say, can't we just take that endowment and put it aside and that will pay all those expenses? And then these guys don't have to go out and be fundraising. My next expectation is that for Christmas, she's gonna be standing at Ingleton with a cup.
I wouldn't.
And I think that's highly probable. And I will put money into it, but that doesn't change the fact that that ain't right.
I mean, keep in mind that if we take out, $1 million, which by the way, I think would be difficult because we applied for a grant
It's in
for
the
that
grant
full
budget,
amount.
yeah.
But even if somehow we did, we're taking out things like geothermal, which is another way we're gonna save on.
I mean, we're not taking out
operational
square
costs.
footage, we're taking out systems.
Where are you
Yes.
putting geothermal?
They're doing a plan for it to see.
Where?
That won't, there's not enough.
That ain't gonna
space.
go. You gotta go vertical.
What'd you say, Larry?
There's not enough space, there's not enough
All
room.
there are 2 geothermals in the county and they're horizontal because they're out on farmland. This is, you're talking about vertical, drilling a thing down and pulling water out. It's very
Yeah.
expensive, all kinds of pumps.
Hold on.
It's the same.
They're not doing.
I think geothermal's gonna be,
The money is in solar
yes.
and it doesn't cost you anything to put it on your thing and you get it in 5 years, you're home.
Okay, so the thing that I've been going back to Jamie about with this is, in a perfect world in the beginning of this, the reason why this has fallen apart so many times is because of operating costs, in my opinion, people that I've talked to anyway. And when you go to build a library, if in the beginning, if there was a way to have taken that $1 million that we have and said, hey, grant people, we're gonna keep this $1 million to operate the thing. Please give us the 4.25 so we can build a $4.25 million library. But it sounds like, and the library is in control of everything, is that correct?
Yes.
We signed the contract. I think that's an open question as to who's managing this at this point, because we, the village, signed the contract with the state. They came back in and said, no, you can't have the library. Now, Lauren doesn't agree with me about that, but we, the village, had to put our name on that. I
Village
don't know how
board,
all that plays out, but it's just not clear it's all that.
Okay, so someone had vested the power to them 2 years ago, roughly.
2013.
Okay, that's a lot longer ago than that. So I would have been happier doing it that way as well, where it's too late now.
We saw these numbers before the grant went in. This is not $1 million we're sliding in.
Just finish up. So we're doing this library, this size. And if they're in control of all this, I don't know about the signing. We give them the information that we want to supply and they make the calls. Is that not the correct way this is going?
Yeah.
So we can all say whatever we want and the library board.
Takes it into consideration.
And decides. And at the very end, somebody is signing off on this, whether it's us or whoever you guys figure out is signing off, right? So it doesn't matter. We can say everything we need to do. We can say whatever we want to say. And I agree with solar and I agree with getting a huge endowment and that's great. But overall, it seems like they get to make the call. So, and we also have to allow them to make calls.
So
Yeah.
turn around and ask them what their question, what their answer is to the endowment question. I want to hear you ask it.
What an endowment question.
You know what I mean? Like, how are they gonna get the money?
Are you willing to go in and modify your application and take the endowment for stuff?
No,
Okay,
Right.
all right, well, then the rest of the discussion is on you here. Good luck.
Which is fine, but I'm just saying, we're providing information and they take it, the end.
We can't say if you don't take this $1 million out, you're not getting raises again. That's also not a fair conversation to have. Like that
But the
It's not
math
okay.
is, Jamie Craig, that 3% times $208,000 or whatever,
Can I ask where your 3% is coming from? Because
that's the state increase.
so we get tax increase based on growth. So there's a lot of communities around us that their increase was much more than 3%. It really
happened
was
this
in growth. Yeah, obviously, we are
Flat.
working,
Right?
no, it was not
What
flat.
did we, let's go back 2 years and.
But God, you're pulling numbers that fit your rhetoric.
2 years
that's
ago,
dangerous.
2 years ago, they were entitled to a $6,000 increase in their budget. What did we give them?
Who was entitled?
1,000.
Who was entitled?
So if you took the 3% number, they should have done
Yes.
6,000. We gave them 1.
They're getting 11% this year.
And where'd that come from?
What do you mean, where did it come from?
Well, it
That's-
obviously didn't come from 3% times their share. They got a larger share of their budget this year, didn't they?
Correct.
And why did that happen?
They had decreased funding in some of their county funding. We've talked about that as well.
I think it came out of our other parts of our operation here. That's where that extra money came from.
Our numbers came in.
Let me put it this way.
You have to let her
Everybody
talk
else got
though.
a 3% raise. They got a 6% raise. How did that happen?
They didn't, no, God, and there's a lot of other departments that have gotten much more than a 3% raise in the past. But I think what's frustrating for staff is that we are entrusted with doing the budget, with coming up with these numbers, with bringing this information to you with actual facts, real numbers. And then we sit in this meeting and there's so much misinformation shared. And if we know anything, it's that misinformation is dangerous and irresponsible. So if we're going to share numbers, let's share the real numbers. The budget ebbs and flows every year depending on department needs. There's been many years where other departments in the past have had a severe need and more of that tax money has gone there. The budget is coming in front of you tonight and in front of the public for a public hearing. At the end of the day, the board makes these decisions. The board has always made these decisions. And all of this information about the library has come in front of the board numerous times. So I think this is very constructive conversation in terms of what concerns are. I also think we need to be fair and realistic and share actual information. Thank you.
I was going off of what you said, Jesse, about,
So actual information.
hold on, go. About you giving us information and we're going with it. So, everybody in this room, except for one maybe, understand that we've been approaching this collaboratively. Like, we're talking with all of you all the time, and we can't do this alone. We're doing it collaboratively. We've got a good building committee. We've got everybody trying to talk to everybody mostly. And we're not doing this in the bubble. And I just want to make sure that everyone hears that out loud, that we really take that as a huge part.
Yeah, I was just
doing it collaboratively.
trying to explain that we can say whatever we want, we're giving information and you're just making decisions overall.
Yeah, and we listen to those things.
Yeah,
I'm either in the office or on the phone, we can give you
I got it.
and Amy, so we've got this as far as a collaborative effort.
Yeah.
And maybe it wasn't that collaborative in the past, but that's what we all want. And I think, Goff, I think that's what you want as well, is to make this a collaborative project.
Doesn't ever happen.
We're
But
really
it
trying
already-
here.
It already is happening.
If I'm hearing you correctly, it's too late. You're not going to amend your proposal.
The proposal is not going to be amended, however, your advice is being considered.
I will say I sat down with Amy and Dan. We had a good discussion and I had requested that they come on a monthly basis and report to us where you are, because we've collaboratively or even just informatively, the board has always not felt in the loop. So this is the first time, the first step. So I feel very informed. I threw in what I thought. You'll do whatever you want with that information, go back to the drawing board, come back next month, throw some more information at us, we'll give some opinions, and it'll continue to go back and forth until the building is up.
Right.
So, which I think is a good start to having communication. So that's why I threw my sense in after I talked with you. I thought, well, maybe if we have a little more endowment, but you obviously have plans and you realize that.
Right. I can keep you updated on operations.
Yeah, and that's great. I mean, yeah.
And I would love to sit down with anybody who has ideas for helping to raise funds for the endowment, or if you think of any energy saving measures that we should be considering.
I think too, Goff, that this library board realizes how cheap we are.
Well, I think it's the reality is that police and public works and all that kind of stuff politically carry more weight at this table, and rightfully so. I think that going forward, libraries are going to have a terrible time. You should see what they're doing down in Cambridge and Broadhead and other places. I mean, they're going for rate increases, and you think the taxpayers are going to revolt? Guess what they just did in Monroe? They turned down their school additional referendum. They're going to cut a huge amount out of that budget in Monroe. And when I look at all that stuff that comes from Wisconsin Municipalities Magazine, if you tell me you want fire or police, people will pass revenue increases and everything else dies, right? So the probability here is you all are going to have to figure out how to get a substantial endowment if you expect to provide the level of services that I all know you want to have, and that you walked away from this opportunity. My sympathies to you, because your operational stuff is going to be really complicated.
You know, New Glarus is blue, Dane County is blue, and Madison passed both their referendums 69% and 72%. And they're a huge referendum. And we are more like Madison than Monroe in New Glarus.
Monroe's also sick of referendums.
This is what.
Monroe's sick of referendums at this point with all the.
Well,
building.
back in the day, years ago, we had little field trips to other libraries. And I would have to say that a number of them did say that they put up too big. So when I talked with you, you were very much aware of that. So I think that's in your radar.
I think that's also why some of them held in past when they were doing the big one on 39. So.
What was the start, 16,000?
There was a 20,000, there was a 16,000, 12,000, now we're at 9,000.
Yeah. So
Is that the inside measurement or the outside?
9,000.
9,000. Pardon?
That's the outside.
9,000 is usable square feet, so.
That's the inside.
Library square feet.
So when you're looking at that report from the architect, he did an outside measurement. He came up with $548 a square foot. So if you're going to do an inside measurement, it's still going to cost the same amount. So now you're up to $648 a square foot because you're using inside measurements.
I'd have to calculate.
Okay,
Any further discussion?
I'm good.
Okay, we'll move on. So. Back to item A, public hearing and consideration discussion of the 2025 budget. So we need a motion to open the public hearing.
A motion to open the public hearing for the budget.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. I'll check the other end to see if anybody's here about the budget.
Page 13.
Thank you, Larry.
Have no presentation. We've already gone through 2 workshops. I mentioned in my Friday email, we have a budget document this year. So it really consolidates all of the budgets into one single document. My hope is that this can help, make our budget more transparent to the public, more accessible. Obviously it's very long, but if people have interest in learning about our budget, they can, sift through and find the specific area that they're interested in and read more about it. But really this public hearing is for the public to come and speak on it. So if we have any public for that, we certainly can do that. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions of the board on this.
Well, if there's nobody here for the public, we might as well shut the public hearing down then.
Either way.
You want to leave it open till the end.
However you want to do it. It's fine with me. We can close it and then just have a discussion.
Is there anybody here that wants to speak on the budget? Okay,
And I'll. Okay, a motion to close the public hearing for the budget.
okay.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Okay, Lauren.
I don't have a presentation.
What I,
Give me your question.
what I would say though, is if we're gonna make any changes, we need to know tonight, because when this comes to the board the next time, it is adoption time. There is no more time for changes. So tonight's the night.
Okay. I don't have any questions.
Is there anything the two of you want to present to us that you have questions about that maybe you want our input on, or do you feel comfortable with every line item?
It hasn't changed much
Okay.
since the public, the budget sessions. I will say, if you'll remember during the general fund discussion, we talked about adding back in some benefits and salaries of 2 positions to keep up with the expenditure restraint program. So I did do that. So we're actually using surplus to cover most of that. But that's money that we'll never actually spend this year. So it's nice because we can meet that requirement for the state and maintain, because next year we'll need to increase it by that much and more. So it's good to keep that level about the same.
What does that leave on the surplus? We spent that all, right? Did we have that?
We have never spent surplus.
So
We did last year, didn't we?
we're using surplus to pay for the
budgeted.
radio loan
Right,
and then the PD roof project and squad car. So that's the surplus from this year. And then we are applying next year some surplus, but again, most of it will not actually be spent.
A lot of times you'll see on our budgets and past budgets that we use surplus to balance the budget.
right.
Because we budget typically worst case or bad case scenario. And we usually end up doing well and don't need to dip into that.
Yeah, we have. Scroll too fast here. Okay. So yeah, in this budget, we have 32,062 budgeted in surplus. I guess one other change is, and we have to add an account number, Kelsey, but I did a transfer from TID 3. Before this, I had the TID 3 just paying for staff salaries. But again, to keep up expenditure restraint, I thought, actually, we can just have that money transferred to general fund and we'll just pay that salary out of general fund. So it's kind of another trick to keep up your spending in general fund, even though you're not actually spending general fund money.
And it's important to note TID 3 is closing in 26. So we also didn't want to create that gap where we're funding something with something that's going to be gone in 27.
But I thought you couldn't, maybe I'm wrong there. Can you fund salaries with TID?
As long as you can prove that the people you're funding are doing that work. So it's Lauren and I, a
I'll
certain
get it.
percentage. Yeah.
And at what point do we decide what to spend when a kid comes up? At what point do we decide to distribute it?
Yeah, so Lauren is working on that. Well, we're obviously creating TID 5, so we've also been having parallel discussions about closing a TID because we've never done that as well. I mean, it really, yeah, it's up to the board. It's been recommended. We have TID 3 as a donor TID to TID 4. TID 4, there's so much opportunity to invest back in the community. That's our downtown district. Like we're seeing it with the hotel. So we could save back enough money for the final audit in TID 3 and then transfer the rest of that remaining balance to TID 4 and then use that money in TID 4. Otherwise, the board obviously could just say, nope, we want to disperse it back to all the taxing jurisdictions. I think the important thing to remember with TIDs is the reason it's such a good tool for municipalities is it's a risk for the municipality, but it is not a risk for the other taxing jurisdictions.
Right.
So the municipality is taking all of that risk, and if it pays off, that's awesome. But if it doesn't, the school district and the county are on the hook for it.
So the increase in the tax base will actually come in 27.
You got it.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's significant.
I didn't know that, and this TID has always been a long learning curve for me, but you can invest, you can take that money from your TID and put it into the tax revenues, is that?
Not tax revenues. We have programs in TID 4 like facade improvement is one of them.
Okay,
We have a revolving loan that
Yeah,
we
yeah.
talked about. So
in terms of investment, we're investing, you can spend TID money in the TID areas, specifically downtown, like streetscape was one of the areas we were looking at. There's a lot of opportunities that it's an investment back in that area that obviously is a domino effect, right?
And the new, 65,000 square feet, the brewery's adding on, that is not in a TID, is it?
Correct,
No.
right, so that will be,
That income will come immediately.
Yep.
well, January, yep, so,
On what?
January 1 is the date, so whatever is done on January 1 of each year is what that tax
What
bill
is
is for the year.
worth,
So if they finish up on March 15th, they're only gonna be taxed on what was there on January.
It's likely we're gonna see that money in 2027 as well,
Yep.
so that's gonna be a big year
Yeah.
for us.
And that's another reason you'll see, obviously, we're not throwing surplus left and right out to fund our budget, but we're more comfortable putting that surplus in there because we know with long-term planning that, for lack of a better term, there's a light at the end of this tunnel.
and that's to pay for a continuing cost,
Yes,
like
correct,
salaries.
correct, correct.
Yeah.
Not capital.
We're pretty lucky that we have a guaranteed bump in revenue in a couple of years.
And, you know, as we talked about and as Goff has talked about, rightfully so, salaries are a concern for us. We know.
I know that wasn't.
Maybe then we can get DC in the morning.
Most of it.
It's the venting and the
I'm
ceiling.
literally sweating still.
Well, is that all on the budget then, or?
I just want to confirm, like, no changes.
That was my question. You
Okay,
answered it.
thank you, sir.
Well, okay, I actually have one question, just to make sure that I know. When we go into closed session, from what we talk about, is that factored in already?
No.
So
But
there
it
would be
can
a
be.
change if that happens. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I should specify changes before we adjourn this meeting.
Perfect.
Okay, then let's move on to item F, consideration of special resolution 2426, Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation Community Development Investment Grant. Woo, that was a mouthful. Lauren?
Yeah, so this is a resolution in support of a
150.
grant application for the CDI Community Development Investment Grant, and this is for the New Glarus Hotel. This program requires a municipality to apply on behalf of the developer, so we are applying on behalf. There's no financial contribution requirement. So it's really just for the pass-through for this, and it requires that we pass a resolution in support of that.
What's the amount they might get?
250,000, I believe.
Well, yes, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve resolution 2426 for the Wisconsin.
Second.
Okay.
Economic development.
It's a mouthful. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Okay, item G. Consideration discussion, resolution 2427, Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation Vibrant Spaces Grant. Lauren?
Okay. So this is another pass-through. The school district has asked us to help apply for the Vibrant Spaces Grant for their community space that's going to be at the new athletic complex. This is phase 2 of that project. They hope to do concessions with bathrooms, but then also like an outdoor space that can have reunions and community events, et cetera, et cetera. And so we thought this grant would be an opportunity to get some funding for that. So again, Village is acting as a pass-through. Actually, Greene County Development Corporation is helping draft the grant, so I don't even have to do anything. It's great.
What's the amount on this one?
That I don't remember, but I can send.
I was just
Is that is that the Ball Diamond? Or are we?
The new
No, the
sports
new-
complex.
We're on the comp, it's at the complex.
Yeah, it'll be there.
The complex.
I asked that question too.
I'll see, we're on the same page.
Oh, the village was going after this one for itself. Wasn't this for
I
downtown?
looked at it, but so it's very specific in that it wants like a space that's very flexible and can be used for communities. So I really wanted to do like brickwork downtown or like doing something downtown, but it didn't seem like that was going to be
Yeah.
competitive for this program, unfortunately. So I thought we'd support the school on this one.
I motion to approve resolution 2427 Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation Vibrant Spaces Grant Program
Second.
application. Done.
That's how it works
Okay.
here.
Yeah.
I
did. Yeah.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Okay, item 8, consideration discussion resolution 2428 for appointment of full-time deputy clerk treasurer.
This is an exciting one. We'd like to hire Sherry Cash. Kelsey and I interviewed her and are very excited to have her on board. She has really great experience, especially in accounting, which we're excited to leverage. So yeah, happy to answer any other questions. She's local as well.
Lives in Monticello.
What were you gonna say?
She lives in Monticello.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion to approve resolution 2428 for appointment of Sherry
Cash.
Cash. I was gonna say
Second.
Deesh.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item I, consideration discussing resolution 2429, setting 2025 storm utility equivalent runoff units, ERUs. That's on 161 of your packet.
What is it now?
That you use?
It's
What's the
11,
fee is now 1221. What was it?
1123.
The reason down.
This one has 30, 24, 34 on it
Oh, it's down here.
instead of 29. 29 is on the first page,
Oh.
but 34 on the back.
You are right. Sorry about that. We were flipping around budget resolutions. I will get that corrected.
So it's 34, 24, 30.
How did we determine, I mean,
No, it should be 29.
how do we determine that? I mean, in terms of when we have to, is it every 5 years we increase it?
No, so every year we take a look at the ERU calculation and it's looking at all of the costs for running the stormwater, so wages,
Oh, I see.
maintenance, et cetera, and then they take a 5-year average of that.
I see.
Yeah, so we have a big spreadsheet where you calculate all of that and that's what it came out to this year.
Do you do that or do our water folks do it?
That does it.
That's something.
Yeah.
I move to approve resolution 24 to 29.
Second.
Again. Look at me for, you're gonna
I
say it.
can't do the all.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carries. Item J, consideration discussion resolution 2430, designating public depository and authorizing withdrawal of village monies effective 1/1/25.
We pass this every single year. This just establishes what our depositories are.
Move to approve resolution R 2430, designated public depository and authorizing withdrawal of village monies effective 1/1/25.
Second.
Without interruption.
Any further discussion?
Impressive.
Yeah, that's what we got.
Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item K, consideration discussion resolution 2431, treasury bond.
Again, one that we pass every single year. This is a procedural resolution. The state statute requires that the village provide the county with a surety bond for state and county tax each year unless we have a resolution that is passed guaranteeing payment.
Let me go ahead and move to approve the 2431 treasury bond resolution.
Do we have an insurance policy?
Second.
Wait, question. Do we have an insurance
Good
policy?
question. After,
What covers this? This is fraud. That's what you're protecting against.
Right.
So do we have an insurance policy?
Yes, we do. We do. Yes.
Okay.
Larry seconded.
Yeah, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Item L, consideration discussing resolution 2432 to establish wages for part-time employees for January 1, 2025 and December 31, 2025. It's page 164.
Who's the weed commissioner?
It was Mike Davis, he's resigned, so
We don't have one?
you wanna be one?
No.
No, you can't be one.
If anyone knows a good weed commissioner.
No, there aren't.
I know.
There aren't a lot of them out there.
Do you have to be licensed?
And the salary is top.
My salary.
Yeah.
Do you have to be licensed or, I mean, how do you?
Oh, no, I think you didn't even know that.
An exam?
I will say the most complicated thing that I think Mike has dealt with in recent years is, I don't know if you remember, we had the prairie garden permit, and our weed commissioner really works with those residents to make sure they're doing that properly. So knowing about native plants, what they need to do prep for that.
Oh, I see.
So we obviously would like a qualified person, and it's good to know too, that we typically share this person, not share, but the town usually has the same person. So it's kind of conducive to the whole area.
So we want them to have experience, but we only pay them $100 a year.
Yep, you got it. Okay,
And they get yelled at every time I touch somebody.
you got it.
Great.
I wouldn't want to do it.
Sounds familiar. No, just kidding.
Sounds like a fun.
The one thing I want to note is that almost all of these part-time folks get the 3% COLA as well. Except for a few, like the weed commissioner. I did also want to mention that Jeff has talked to me about potentially increasing part-time police officer wages. I told him we don't have the budget this year, but I did want to highlight that for you all. That is a interest. We know that part-time officers are getting paid higher in some other communities. And obviously being a part-timer is easier for you to jump around to other places. So just putting that on your radar.
What is part-time officer pay elsewhere that's higher?
It's like 28 to 32. And the big one was my secretary too. She's been here for almost 30 years and she was only making $1
So did she get a raise?
3%, but she gave me 21 too.
He might bet.
I don't think you could have said that any weirder.
So need a motion.
I make a motion.
Second,
Very abbreviated.
To approve for the wages for part-time employees, January for 2025.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, there was no parks and recs, no public safety, personnel finance, president's report down to item 10, announcement. The village board will adjourn in a closed session pursuant to state statutes 1985 1C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation that of any public employee over which governmental body has jurisdiction or exercising responsibility to require a closed session and may reconvene to open session pursuant to state statute 1985 2, employee compensation matters. Okay, we need a motion to go into closed session.
I make a motion to go into closed session.
second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, we got a roll call in? I'm sorry.
Becca Stofka?
Yeah.
Jamie Craig?
Yeah.
Jesse Donahue?
Here.
Larry Stussy?
Aye.
Goff Thompson?
Thank you.
Peggy Cruz?
Yeah.
Roger Troutman?
Yes, ma'am.
Who's the dude? No one knows me.